Hello, I'm reclusive genius Paul Schiernecker. It's time for a Q&A. I can't believe that my own mother is accusing me of changing the rules of drinking Monopoly. These are the rules as in the book. Number 1, drink 2 fingers when you land on someone's property. Number 2, drink 2 fingers when you roll a double and make up a rule. Number 3, drink 2 fingers when you land on go. Number 4, if you go to jail, we play waterfall. Number 5, drink 2 fingers when you buy a house. 4 fingers if you buy a hotel. 6, drink 2 fingers when you land on tax. 7, drink rest of drink if you land on free parking. Everyone else cheers and takes a sip. Number 8, drink 2 fingers if you land on waterworks. Number 9, drink 1 finger when you take a chance card. Number 10, if you land on community chest, nominate someone to drink 2 fingers. 11, drink however many fingers you rolled on that turn if you land on electric. Number 12, if you land on Mayfair, then it is gentlemen's rules, which are no swearing, no pointing, no elbows on tables, no first names, no slang, and no cheating. Number 13, drink 2 fingers if you violate any of the rules. And number 14, if you have to pay a fine, you drink 1 sip for every £100 spent. As far as I can remember, they do follow those rules in the story, so we'll leave it at that. We did actually play it the whole of Monopoly is true, as a horrible sequence of events. It actually happened. Crazy, right? Yeah. But we actually played that game. That did happen, and it was thanks to Ash. Ash is the one who invented it. I won't say who his character is, but he's in the book. He came up with that as an idea. In terms of inspiration, like a lot of like beatnik American writers, like Kerouac, Ginsberg, Bukowski, Neil Cassidy. Yeah, that's sort of that sort of whole 20th century jazz poet beatnik movement thing. That's quite prevalent in my work. Hunter S. Thompson, J.D. Salinger, Chuck Palahniuk. Not a lot of English writers, which is probably really bad, and explains a lot about the way that I write as well. I don't think there's any reason to specify what my true love is of the two. Like I love making music, and I love playing guitar, and I love listening to music, and I love writing as well. And I don't see why the two can't coexist. Like I write a lot about music, and I make music that's stories. Sort of a lot of my music is based on stuff that's happening in the same way that what I write is. So there's a massive crossover. Like if I had to have a preference, I'd say writing. I think you've got. It sounds it's bad to make a decision based on this, but I think music you can sort of fall in and out of fashion quite quickly, whereas with writing, unless you're E.L. James, you've probably got sort of a whole lifetime's worth of stories rather than just pornographic Twilight fan fiction. The reactions, there was sort of a mixed bag of reactions. My parents were so I don't know. It was really hard for them because I think they were proud. They were like, "Oh, he's got a book out. He's finally doing something. Maybe he's going to move out of home. That'd be fantastic." But at the same time, there's some pretty sordid stuff in there. Without spoiling it for anyone who hasn't read the book, there's sort of like a very poorly veiled version of myself in most of the stories who has sort of relations with fairly unsuccessful relations with women. Not that that's changed, and not that that's veiled. And he also indulges in quite a lot of drugs. Like I don't think that I've done a lot of drugs. I don't think of myself as being like a drug user. But people were like, "Fucking hell, you you really need to curtail some of that behaviour." Especially my boss. My boss wasn't. Was a bit concerned, I think. Madcat apparently has another story in him, I'll speak about this later because I know that there's another question where I'll talk about Madcat in depth. Did Madcat ever find love? Yes, I'd like to think so. The Spider-Man outfit I put out to pasture not long after the Halloween night that occurs in the book of short stories. It had got to a point where pretty much every cuff and every joint in that outfit had just been pulled apart. There were like massive gaps in the crotch, and in excuse the taps. There were massive gaps in the crotch and the armpits of it. I can remember sort of wearing it out and being like, "This is fine. This is still got use in it." And in the end, I just had to throw it away. It was in bits. The message of where does all the money go is, I think, is explained in the book. So the answer to the question, at least, is in the book. The message that I'm trying to get across is that a lot of the time you have to try different things. You have to go through a lot of these bizarre situations in order to become the person that you're going to be at the other end of it. If if there's anything that I've taken away from writing it and living it, it's that it all sort of formed some basis. It's all a foundation in what I went on to do in some way. My inspiration comes pretty exclusively from my life. Uh, like with Where Does All the Money Go? All all 10 of those stories are fact. Like there's 9 stories and one essay, I suppose. All of it is fact. All of it happened. There's bits I elaborated on, but again, I'm not going to say which parts because I don't want to lessen the impact of bits you may have enjoyed by saying sort of, oh, I just made that up. I didn't really put that on my bum, because I don't think that changes anything really. It's sort of a story. If you enjoy the story, you enjoy the story. I I'll give a sensible answer. I think I'll have to pay off all the debt that I still owe to the student loan company because they'll probably be pretty quick on the uptake if I was to become a millionaire. Jack Daniels. I did make a count of how many times I mentioned drinks in the book. I think it's in another video, but Jack Daniels every time, like, it's just my number one. He's my guy. I don't think there's anything I'd change about it. Every time I read it, there's words that I'd rearrange. There's sentences I'd change. When I did the reading at the Alex, I looked at it and just thought to myself, I could have written this better. This is really bad, but that's just the process of it. At some point, you have to accept that it's good and it's got to go. Otherwise, you just end up holding on to things and making them more precious. So there's nothing really that I'd change about it. Someone said to me the other day that they'd found some mistakes in it. Um, they're the first person who said that, other than the person who asked this question, who told me that I didn't mean Tybalt. I think I referred to Tybalt, and I meant Mercutio. She'd know Shakespeare better than me. They were they were right, as I said before. Like, I think you get to an age, you get to a point where your parents know that you're having sex in the same way that I know that they're. So you just have to accept that that's a thing that happens. I don't think they needed to read about it in that much detail or to know that spoiler, that I ejaculated in my hair. They don't need to know that. But, they chose to have me and they chose to read the book, so it's their own mistake. Uh, in terms of the drugs, like they're always quite lax on us in terms of drink and drugs when we were younger. Um, so it's again, that's their fault. If they're Although it tends to be the kids who are sort of like ruled with an iron fist who break out. I think it's just part and parcel of growing up, isn't it? You need to try these things and see what you like and what you don't. In terms of the eating disorder, it was something. I guess they were worried about it. Like, they used to send me money and food parcels and stuff all the time, so they're obviously concerned about my well-being in some way, shape, or form. You should have read it really more than most, because I sent it to you so many times. Night of the Fridge Graveyard, I know, was in your inbox about 80 times. That was the first one I wrote, and I sent it directly to you to read. So it's your own fault if you haven't read it. And yeah, there is a lot of questions around ejaculate. Thank you. Oliver does have excellent volume to his hair. I saw him last weekend. We went out in London for a couple of drinks, and it's looking fantastic. He's looking fantastic. He's always fantastic. Madcat's the only character that I don't know, which is quite a weird admission. Everyone else I've met and I got their story. Like, I was there or I heard about it. There was some way that I was involved in what happened to them. But the Madcat story, actually, the guy who's the basis for Lucas, who I've spoken to since the book came out, and he's specifically asked me not to reveal his true identity. I asked him if he wanted to do like a book reading, and I was like, it would be really good if you could read the Madcat story because it's your story. But what happened is he called me up, and we were chatting. He was like, "Oh, can I tell you this weird thing that happened? I need someone to explain to me whether I'm being crazy or if this is just a normal thing to have happened." I was like, "Yeah, yeah. What was it?" And he told me the Madcat story from start to end, pretty much exactly as it is in the book. So that completely happened to him. Um, and I spoke to him afterwards because people were asking me questions about Madcat. Madcat was really well received, um, which is infuriating when it didn't happen to me. Uh, and I was like, people keep asking me what happened to Madcat, what happened to Madcat, and he was like, "There's another story. You wait." And I'm still waiting. Like, he's promised me that I'm going to get this second story, and it will probably spawn another book of short stories off the back of this. Without answering the question of whether I did or I didn't, and again, trying not to spoil it for anyone who's not read it, the yeah, I did. I smoked it. Yeah, definitely.